Hello, it is I, the adipose lover, and doing something a bit different. Because, well, this is it's not a review. This is an unscripted, different type of video, as sort of a celebration for my first two seasons uploaded onto YouTube for reviewing. And basically, what I'm doing here is, well, to explain it lightly, if there's one thing about these seasons that I remember the most, and what I value the most, is characters. So I made these two tier lists of every character I think is important, and I'm just going to rank them. This can be mostly unedited, mostly unscripted. Actually, there's no script at all. And yeah, basically, if you want to chuck this on the background, go ahead. I'm going to try and do this for every season coming forward, because the next season I'll be doing is season 18. And the thing is, I didn't do this for season 12, so I'm going to do season 12 and season 19 here. So some of these characters I may not fully remember everything about, but I'm just ranking them here. Now, there's a couple things I want to mention. First thing, I'm not including species of monsters, for example, Daleks and Cybermen. I'm only including important species or monsters. So the most important are the ones I'm including. And when I say important, I mean the main, like, the leader or something like that. So whoever rules these monsters. Another thing is, for some characters, for example on this tier list, we have the Fourth Doctor here. I'm not including the Fourth Doctor for every season that he appears in, just only season 12. Because I think it is unfair, especially to the other characters, even though he already has an advantage already because he has the most screen time out of all the other characters here. I think it's also a bit unfair for that. I've tried to include named characters and unnamed characters. I'm also not including the Third Doctor and the Fourth Doctor for seasons 12 and 19, for the sole reason that I think it's a bit unfair to rank them, knowing that their scenes, their regeneration scenes, are actually from the end of their previous story. So I don't think that's a good way to start off, and I can't really judge the character for that. There's a couple characters on here who don't have much screen time, and I don't think, and obviously they're going to rank lower. But there's some characters who have more, and I'll rank accordingly. So I'll just begin. If there's anything else I need to say, I'll probably say it when it comes to me. Just looking at both tier lists. Oh yeah, another thing is some of these characters I did not mention in my review at all. And, so obviously, these are characters who I would remember the least amount of. And I actually have a notepad document up, with all the characters' names, so I can remember what they are. And I can sort of remember. So, let's actually begin here. We have the Fourth Doctor beginning with season 12. Now, the Fourth Doctor's a pretty interesting place to start, because, well, he's like the main guy, and I think it's pretty hard to rank him anywhere else other than S tier. I'm not going to order these, by the way. Why S tier? Well, it's obvious why S tier, because he is an absolute legend this season. Now, if I'm ranking the whole character on its own, he'll probably move down to here. But I think S tier is a good place to start. He is absolutely amazing. He steals every scene, and he is pretty much perfect almost the whole way through. There's some moments where he has a bit of hiccups, but for his first appearance, his first season, he nails it. And I can just respect him for that. Now, we have Sarah Jane Smith. Now, Sarah Jane, I don't think I mentioned this, but I don't know how hot of a take this is, but I actually preferred her in season 11 a bit more with John Pertwee. I think she just had a lot more to do in that. And in this season, especially, she sort of suffers a bit. And, like, Robot, the first serial, she does quite a lot in Robot. But other than that, she doesn't do much. And I think that's a bit of a shame on her character, because in Ark in Space, she's not really in the first episode, and she only really has like one big moment, and that's crawling through the vents. In Sontaran Experiment, she does nothing. Genesis, she does quite a lot until she does nothing. Till she gets demoted with Harry. And Revenge of the Cybermen, she like rides a boat and then gets captured, and the Doctor saves her. She's a very big damsel in distress in this season, which I think kind of weakens her character, because she's a very strong character. So I think I'm going to have to put her A, and I'd love to put her higher, but I don't think she's as good as she could have been. Then we have Brigadier Alistair Gordon Lethbridge Stewart. Oh. Now, for some reason on the box set, it says he's credited, Nicholas Courtney is credited alongside Tom Baker, Elizabeth Sladen, and Ian Marter. I don't think that's kind of fair, because he's only in the first serial. But, nevertheless, he is, he's great as always, but he, again, doesn't do much. He kind of just lets the Doctor kind of do his own thing, just lets him take the lead, especially in those first 2 episodes when they're investigating all the little areas. He just lets the Doctor take the lead, and I think that's a bit weak for his character. He doesn't have many arguing moments, and knowing this is only one of 2 serials he has with the 4th Doctor, it's a bit of a shame. I unfortunately have to put him in B, and he's an S tier character. Like, all 3 of these guys are S tier. Oh, actually, I'm not a big fan of the 4th Doctor, but he is an S tier character. I just can't put him any higher. Now, Harry Sullivan. Whew. He is an imbecile, but he's a lovable imbecile, and I kind of feel bad for Ian Marter, because it's very obvious that the writers did not know what to do with him early on. Like, in Robot, he does, kind of nothing in Robot. In Ark in Space is, I say, his highlight story, especially in that first episode with the Doctor exploring the spaceship. Sontaran Experiment, he falls down a hole and doesn't really show up ever again. Genesis, he's mainly with the Doctor the whole time, but since, he's with the Doctor, he gets overshadowed. And Revenge of the Cybermen, he also doesn't do much. Again, it's sort of a thing that they casted Ian Marter into the role because they thought that it'll be an older actor for the Doctor, so he can do the heavy lifting. But he sort of just fades into the background. But I don't know, every scene he's in is amazing. Like, he has that old girl stuff when he's talking to Sarah. I don't know why he says that, but I think he's just so charming. I have to put him A. And I can't really bring myself to put him lower. Next is Warrant Officer John Benton. Oh, and Harry Sullivan as well as a Surgeon Lieutenant. But anyway, Warrant Officer John Benton. So, he's previously a sergeant. And Benton is an interesting one because he, again, doesn't do much. He actually sort of does not, he harms a lot of stuff, but he did save the Doctor in the cliffhanger, for episode, well, not cliffhanger, but the beginning of episode 3 of Robot. He only appears in Robot. He has, really one scene, and that's the scene where he's explaining to Sarah that he got promoted. Again, I hate to put him C, but for season 12 alone, he doesn't do much. Next is Hilda Winters. Now, Hilda Winters is a very interesting character. One of the first female villains, and also a really good villain for this serial. I think she does quite a lot. My problem with Miss Winters goes to the fact that she's kind of, written out for part 4, but that's a part 4 issue. And I do also like how, and this is external knowledge, I'm not going to affect this into the score, but if you've ever listened to the Sarah Jane Smith Big Finish audios that they released in the early 2000s, she is a villain in that, and she has this, hatred for Sarah Jane and wants her stopped, which is kind of funny. But, just from her presence, I have to give it A. Arnold Jellicoe, however, doesn't do much. helps K1 down the stairs, and then fades into obscurity. C tier. Bit unfortunate. K1 himself. Oh, K1. Now, it is a bit weird I'm including a robot on here, and that's kind of a thing, like, should I include robots or not? I think I should. He has a lot of personality for a robot. He is the titular robot in the story. Extremely memorable, like such an iconic, classic Who character. I just wish he was again used a bit better for part 4, where he didn't become a King Kong parody. I will give him B tier, but as like a prop, he's amazing. Now this next one is a bit interesting. We have Joseph Chambers. I think he's the foreign minister or cabinet minister or something. He's the guy who gets robbed of the disintegrator gun, and I think he gets killed. Basically, his wall gets blown up while he's opening the safe and on a call. Hate to break it, and I hate to do this, but going D. Doesn't do anything. Professor Kettlewell, this guy annoys me, because, he's a twist villain, and is revealed that he's with Think Tank all along, but he's also kind of weak, and he has one of the most lame deaths I've ever seen a single character have. Hate to really do this, but he's memorable but he's a C tier character. Now this guy is Mr. Short, and basically he's only in one scene. He is in episode 2 when Sarah Jane is trying to sneak into Think Tank, or not sneak in, but like go into the reception, and she basically goes up and has a chat with this guy, and he goes, "Oh, no, not allowed in," but then he's like, "Oh, please, I need you to speak good of us on the newspaper, on your new article." So he's kind of like a desperate guy. He is such a forgettable character, and honestly, like, who really remembers him? So, yeah, D tier. This guy, here we go. This guy doesn't have a name. I'm just going to call him the receptionist, but he's actually probably my favourite one-off non-speaking character out of any of these reviews, because this guy has some of the best, like, slapstick comedy. So he first appears with Mr. Short in this scene, but basically when... Actually, no, he doesn't appear with Mr. Short. He appears when Kettlewell's getting in, and he's with Jellicoe at the reception. But eventually, when the Doctor enters, the Doctor famously accidentally trips him with his scarf. And what I find so funny is that after he gets tripped over, and this would have happened off screen, he comes up, goes through the door, and when the Doctor's on stage, he gets ordered to attack him, and he is the famous 10,000 IQ guard who jumps over the Doctor when he ducks down. And I know this sounds really stupid, but I have to put him A. This guy is an absolute legend through and through, and I want to know the lore behind this man, because this guy has just done so much. And he's only in like 2 scenes, or 3 scenes, and he is just such a funny character. Now so that's all the characters from Robot. The next character is probably the one out of every single one on both tier lists I had the most contention over, and that is June. So this guy he's the first person to be killed by the Wirren, and he is killed in the opening scene of the Ark in Space. He says nothing. He is pretty much unconscious the whole time. His body, I think, becomes a Wirren. And I'm not going to really include, I will include the Wirren-possessed characters for other characters, but I don't think there's really, anything to go here. Next is Vira, and Vira is a pretty good character. I think it's sort of hard to hate Vira, and just from what we get of her, she works really well. I think I've said that she works really well as a companion surrogate character. And she's just so interesting. And I know this sounds super mean, especially to Sarah Jane, but I might put her S tier. She really carries Ark in Space. Then we got the actual carry of Ark in Space, Noah. Or, actually I can't even remember his old name, but obviously he's referred to Noah. And he is the one who famously turns into the Wirren, slowly through. I feel bad for the actor, because that is some difficult things to do, especially with bubble wrap over you. But he sells it really well, and I do like in his final moment, he does have a bit of humanity left in him, even though he's a bug. So I'm going to put him A tier. I think he's held back for the fact that we also lose that scene of him, the scene that is missing, or that's been cut. That one scene that's missing where he's begging to be killed, because it was too dark. I wish that was included, but obviously it isn't. The next is Libri. I think that's how you say it. This guy is the third person to be brought out, and he is the one who first sees him as a monster, sees Noah as a monster. He eventually goes over to Noah at the very end of part 2, and Noah kills him. He's memorable-ish, but pretty forgettable in the end. I'm going to put him C tier. Then we have Lyset. Now, Lyset and Rogan were both resurrected at the same time. Lyset does nothing, and he dies in episode 3. Pretty sure he gets attacked by the Wirren. So I'm going to put him D tier. He's pretty forgettable. Rogan obviously has the epic sacrifice at the end of episode 4, where he sacrificed himself for the Doctor, and I have to respect that. I'm putting him in A tier for that. That is some honourable stuff. Now, next is the characters from the Sontaran Experiment. So we are starting off with Zake. Now, Zake is the guy who got chased off the mountain, and he did that big jump. He is very forgettable, and he's a very hard character to talk about, Zake, and like, he has that famous death, but he doesn't do anything. I have to give him C. Next is Iraq, who I'm also going to give C, because he also does nothing. He's in it for the majority of the time, but like, we don't see him do anything, so that's kind of the shame. The scavenger robot. Now, I know this sounds a bit weird. Why am I including the scavenger robot? This is not even a character. But from what I know, there's only one of them, and is a memorable thing of this story, as it chases characters around and it like captures them and brings them back to the Sontarans. I think the scavenger robot, it's a cool prop. And again, this sounds stupid. B tier. Next is Roth. Now, Roth, out of all the human characters, I think is the most interesting, because he's the one who was brainwashed and has escaped, and he's gone sort of crazy. And I think he's by far the most interesting out of all the characters in this story. I have to give him an A tier. Then we have Kranz, I think. This guy, he's famously played by... I love how I say famously. He is played by the guy who wrote the Space Museum. Forgot his name. But that's kind of the only notable thing. The actor of him wrote the Space Museum. And, like, C tier. Vural, I will put B tier. He's the one who actually does stuff. He, like, fully interrogates the Doctor. And he dies in the end. He gets... like, crushed. It's a bit morbid. But yeah. Then we have Steyer. Field Marshal Steyer. And, I think Field Marshal. I actually can't remember his rank. Steyer is A or S. He is very good, but he only appears in one episode, and I have to give him an A. He is amazing as always, played by Kevin Lindsay, the OG Sontaran actor the best Sontaran actor. I'm not a big fan of his look. I don't like this more, like, I don't know what you call it. It's just faded potato look. I much prefer the original, more baked or like cooked look that they had. But there's something that people forget. There's a second Sontaran in this story. And that Sontaran is the Sontaran Marshal. And I'm gonna give this guy D, for the sole reason that this guy's an idiot. And it still sort of confuses me how the ending of the story works, because the Doctor stops the Sontaran. Shouldn't these guys send everything they have on Earth? Because one of their own kind has just been killed. But I guess the Doctor did some override thing and went, aha, you can't do anything, bye-bye. Bit strange. Then we have a huge chunk of characters from Genesis of the Daleks, beginning off with the Time Lord. Now this guy, I'm giving S tier. Super memorable, has one of the best roles in Doctor Who history, one of the best Time Lords. You can argue, for some people, the last good appearance of them, even though I'm not a hater of Deadly Assassin. I really enjoy this Time Lord. He is really cool. He's the first Time Lord to ever have this big collar thing. Yeah, he's so distinctive. He has this like really ethereal look to him, and this is again the last time that Time Lords felt godly. Like he felt like a godly presence that the Doctor couldn't do anything about, and I love it. And another character who I think is absolutely incredible, and that is Raven. This guy speaks volumes, especially in part 1, where he has that amazing speech on like why the Thals should be exterminated, and he is just oozing with that like Nazi-like speech. He is such a like memorable Khalid, and it's a bit of a shame that he actually gets killed. I think in part, here we go, 4. I think it was like the cliffhanger for 3 when the Thal rocket blows up the Khalid dome, which he's in. But a character who you can't beat is Nida, who is going straight to S tier. Nida is incredible through and through. He is unfortunately overshadowed by his big boss, but he just works so well as this like head of like security, this no-nonsense, just menacing force that you can't even do anything to. You can't even like make this guy go on your side. And I love how despicable he is. Like, even when Garmin, in I want to say episode 4 or 5, tries to get him against Davros, he just stays loyal, and I can respect that for him. And he also gets killed at the end, which he's a tragic character in the end, because he was doing what he did. Speaking of tragic characters and amazing characters, Davros is obviously an S tier character. Super memorable, super amazing. I go into a lot of detail about him in my Genesis review, but I will say one thing. Why do they bring him back? But obviously, I'm not talking about that. This is a character who is perfect in the story. From beginning to end, he is a perfect character. He is so menacing, so scary, and you actually, like, you feel, like, not feel, but you understand him. You kind of understand where he's going. And the big thing at the end is a tragic ending. He gets killed by his own creations in a tragic way, and I wish they never brought him back. Next is Garmin, who I'm going to give an A tier. He is the good Khaled. I can respect him. That's kind of it. He gets killed in the end. This next character is called Geralt, I think. He is the first Muto we meet, or one of the first. He's the one who wants Sarah killed, and he eventually gets killed himself. Very forgettable. Then we get Severin, the good Muto, who I'm giving a B tier. Actually, no, I'm giving an A tier. This guy's an actual legend. I can respect this guy. And I love the idea of Mutos being these just abominations of the war, which no side wants. And I think this character works really well for their story. Then we have Ronson, who I'm giving a B tier. Ronson is pretty good. Ronson has some good moments. He also has some pretty interesting moments with Davros. You can tell he is super scared of Davros. Like, he does not want to be associated with this man. And he's also one of the good Khaleds. Now, these next two are a bit forgettable, especially this next one, who is Kravos, I think, who I'm giving a D tier. He, from what I remember, he only appears in episode 6, but he might appear earlier, but he is basically a Khaled who, at the very end, who's on the mutiny, who is with the other... He's with the other Khaleds who are trying to overthrow Davros. He is one who actually switches to Davros' side because Davros reveals that he has, like... He was the one who put, like, a metal instrument into his chest, which keeps him alive. And because of that, he wants to stay on Davros' good side. So he's a bit of a... I don't know. He's not much. All he does is just improves Davros. Then we have Cavill, whatever this guy's name. He is one who Garmin tries to get on his side in episode 4. I'm pretty sure... I actually can't really remember what happens to him. Obviously, he gets killed in the end. I know if he stays on Davros' side, but I think he sticks with Garmin's. But he's, like, pretty wary. He does a bit more than Kravos. This guy doesn't have a name, but I'm just going to call him the Thal Soldier. He is the one who chases Sarah Jane up the rocket silo, and he dangles her off the edge. I really appreciate this character. I'm putting him in B tier, for the sole reason that he is the reason why the Thals are not perfect. He is a evil character for a side that we previously have seen to be pretty good. I can appreciate what they do with this guy. Next is the big Thal Chancellor, the one who... the idiot. Putting him in C tier. Very forgettable. Is he important? Nah. Is he anyone's favourite character? Also not. So, yeah, you're going C tier with the rest of these fellas. So we have Betten, who is revealed, well, now a Clara splinter, or a version of Clara, even though it doesn't really change much of the story. I think Betten is pretty interesting. Just kind of the good Thal. She's a good Thal. She doesn't do much wrong. She's in that amazing shot with the Dalek in the pink sky. Other than that, doesn't do much. Speaking of Daleks, now, this next character, I'm only including for the sole reason that this character is important. This is the first Dalek Emperor. And honestly, I have to give this guy S tier. This guy is the one who kills Davros in the end and has that amazing speech. And is now being retconned to become the very first Emperor of the Daleks. Is he the same Emperor from Evil the Daleks? Don't think so. Is he the same Emperor down the line to become the Emperor from Parting of the Ways? Also don't think so. Most likely he's not. But I can appreciate for what this Dalek did. Just having one of the best monologues in the show's history. Defining the Daleks. Now, that's all the characters from Genesis. Then we got the bad story. With Revenge of the Cybermen. Beginning off with Warner. He gets attacked by Cybermats and dies. He's on the Navcom thing. I can respect him. I'm putting him B. This loser. This is Professor Kelman. And he is the traitor. And he does this elaborate double cross where he kills all of the humans on Nerva Beacon. But to lure Cybermen in. But in reality, he's not with the Cybermen. He's actually with the Vogans. Strange. These next two are very forgettable. Commander Stevenson, I have to give C tier. Same with Lester. They don't do much at all. Then we have the main, I'll call him the main villain of Revenge of the Cybermen, even though he's not. Vorus, giving him a B tier. I can appreciate what Vorus does. Being the bad Vogan who wants to who wants to fully destroy the Cybermen, but he's also quite reckless. Now, Margrick, I'm putting D tier. Margrick, I only really included him, well, because he is mentioned. He is sort of like the right-hand man to Vorus. He's also played by the actor of Davros, forgot his name, but he's played by the same actor. Speaking of characters played by big actors, we have here Chief Counselor Tyrum, played by Kevin Stoney, who obviously played the big bads of Mavic Chen and Tobias Vaughn, two just absolutely godly Doctor Who villains. His third role is not as good. I will also put him D. Very weak. And speaking of weak characters, the Cyber Leader. The very first Cyber Leader, he is very forgettable. And I'm not a big fan of him. You're getting C tier. I'm not putting you in D tier, because I do like his massage hands, but I'm not putting him into B tier because he's not very threatening. So yeah, that is my Season 12 tier list. And honestly, I think that's not a bad tier list. I'll obviously put these in the link in the description if you want to do these, because I made these. And you guys can include other characters who I've forgotten if you want. But anyway, Season 19, oh god, here we go. So, Season 19 has a lot of characters, and some of these characters, they don't do much, so we're going to try and go quick for these, because a lot of them are very forgettable. Fifth Doctor. Like, honestly, he's one of these two, but I have to give him S. I'm giving him S for the sole reason that I think he is really, really done well. He is, I can appreciate what this Doctor does, and he obviously is not getting his footing in, but I still really enjoyed him in a lot of these stories. Four To Doomsday, he is really good in. He is really good in The Visitation, really good in Earthshock, and he does his best in Time Flight. Castrovalva, I'm not a big fan of him on Castrovalva. Kinder, I'm also not a big fan of, and Black Orchid, I wish he did more. Tegan. Where do I put Tegan? Because Tegan's an interesting one. And she has a miniature character arc. And I can understand where they're going, but I'm going to put her S. I think she is probably the best companion of the season, and a highlight one. She has a really good role in Castrovalva. I'm a bit disappointed in her in Four To Doomsday. Kinder, which I'll get to her possessed form, even though I wish that was longer. Visitation, she is mostly imprisoned for that. Black Orchid, she kind of hangs around. Earthshock, she gets a pretty big role. Time Flight, she gets a lesser big role. Other than that, she's pretty good. Adric. Adric is a character who, if you told me last year, I would have put him here. But ever since rewatching, I'm putting him up to here. I think Adric is such an interesting character in this season. And this is mainly because of Earthshock. Earthshock just is such a good story for him. But I actually don't mind evil Adric in Four To Doomsday. He actually is not the worst in the world. Obviously, I'm not a big fan of him in The Visitation, where he is a punching bag, but I can appreciate what they do with him in Four To Doomsday by making him sort of this anti-hero. And Nissa, I'm also putting A. Nissa's a character who I think people forget a lot in this season, and I think people also undermine her. They think she does less than she actually does. She actually is does not much in only like 3 of the serials. I know that is still not very good, but she has a pretty large role in Castrovalva. Four To Doomsday, she is really good in that. Kinder is obviously the one that she's not in. Visitation, she gets kind of demoted halfway through. Black Orchid, she's the main character of Black Orchid. Earthshock, she also gets demoted in episode 2. But then she gets a really big role in... well, I shouldn't say big role, but she gets a pretty big role in Time Flight. So I can respect her. Now, the Tremus Master. Now, I'm also including his disguises, I should say, and his alter egos. The Portreeve and Khalid. Talking about the Master himself, I am not the biggest Anthony Ainley fan. I think that is a cardinal sin, and I should be executed for saying that. But he's just... I don't really like his over-the-top performance. It also goes to the fact that I'm not a big Master fan. I've never found the character that interesting. I can still respect Anthony Ainley's performance. I think he's pretty good in Castrovalva. We don't really talk about him in Time Flight. The Portreeve disguise, which I haven't included that or Khalid here, because it's the same character. I think, obviously Khalid is a racist thing, and I'm not a big fan of it. The Portreeve is kind of obvious it's him. Like, I don't know how many people how many people fell for that, but it is very obvious he's the Portreeve. But I can appreciate him. I'm putting him B tier. Not the worst, not the best. Then we have... Now, these other characters technically are not really real, but I'm including them. So we have here we have Shardavan, the main guy from Castrovalva, who I'm also giving B. Pretty sure he sacrificed himself at the end. Pretty... alright. Then we have the medical doctor, Murgrave, who giving a C. Not the most memorable. I'm also giving C to this little girl, who is the one who asks the doctor all the math questions. I think she's actually pretty interesting. She's a cute character who just doesn't ruin the plot, really, and she has a nice little scene with the 5th Doctor, especially in Castrovalva. Then we have Ruther, who I'm not a big fan of. He's kind of he just walks around. Four To Doomsday. So we have Monarch. And Monarch, the big bad. I'm giving Monarch a B. I can appreciate what Monarch does. And he works as a villain. Now these two, being Enlightenment and Persuasion... Well, I think I honestly can't remember who's Enlightenment. I'm pretty sure she's Enlightenment and he's Persuasion. Doesn't matter. Both are C tier. They are very forgettable. They have a cool little ending fight with Adric and the Doctor when he's tethering himself out into space with the rope. Other than that, pretty forgettable. Then we have the Delegates. Being off with Bygone. Bygone's an A. I can respect this guy. He has a really good cliffhanger. He also is a really cool character. Then we have the ones that are not as interesting. Kikuchi. Hope I said that right. The Indigenous Australian. I will say these 3 are very stereotypical characters, and I think as stereotypes, they work, but wish they could be a bit better. I'm not a big fan that Kikuchi can speak Tiwi, and actually I shouldn't say I'm not a big fan how Tegan can speak Tiwi, but Kikuchi, he's a C tier. Princess Villagra, I'm giving a D. She does nothing. She does not say a single word, and she's a Mayan princess. Then we have Lin Futu, who I'm giving a B. Lin Futu actually does stuff. He's sort of villainous, and they eventually get on his good side at the end. I also like the Chinese dragon thing from the dances. Anyway, Kinder. A lot of characters from Kinder. Beginning off with the main humans, we have Sanders. not a big fan of Sanders. I think he's a bit of a wasted character. But, but we get Hindle, who is going all the way in S tier. If Sanders was everything wrong with the story, Hindle's everything right. Now, Hindle's mental breakdown is like such a perfect thing, and I just love how crazy this guy is. This is such an effective villain for this story. Dr. Todd, another S tier. Just, what a great companion character for this story. Now, I'm not a massive Kinder fan, but I can really respect Dr. Todd. I mainly don't like Kinder for the companion use, and that the Doctor doesn't really have that big of a use in it anyway. Now, these next couple characters, I really contemplated on adding them because they are, how to say it, very interesting. Basically, these are all technically the Mara, and I included them as individual characters for the sole fact that they sort of are individual, they sort of have characteristics. Beginning off with, now I didn't mention these guys by name, but we have Anita and Anaka, both giving D. They have a memorable chess sequence, but they don't do anything. And they only appear in episode 1. But this guy, Dukkha, he is really cool. I wish this guy was the villain for Kinder. He would have been an amazing villain. And every scene he's in is perfect. I really like his mental manipulation with Tegan. Now, the Mara itself. Now, the Mara, I'm including the Mara possessing Tegan as the Mara. Same with Aris. And then its final form. And I'm giving it a B. I wish it possessed Tegan for longer. But that's kind of a problem with the story. Then we have Panna. Big old Panna. Give an A tier. She's like the old, like, wise woman. I can appreciate what she does. And Karuna, I'll give a B. She eventually gets Panna's mind at the end. Like, they kind of become one. Except for Panna's a bit more interesting, I think. Because she's like a blind, old, wise lady. Then we have Aris, who is the main villain, you can argue. He's like the bad Kinder guy trying to rescue his brother. I also didn't include the brother in this, but his brother would go D. He's a C tier character. He's more memorable when the Mara's possessing him. Visitation. We have a lot of interesting characters here. Beginning off with the opening scene characters. Now, these guys are pretty forgettable. Beginning off with Ralph, the butler who gets killed by the pteroleptals. D, does nothing. We have the squire, or John the squire. C, does nothing. We have his son, Charles. C, does nothing. Or I think he kills one of the pteroleptals. Then Elizabeth, who I'm going to give B, because she has that nice scene when she's looking at the spaceship crashing, looking at the shooting star. She's the daughter of John, by the way. These guys, I wish, had a bit more of a connection to the story, but I can respect them. Now I just looked at who's next, and that's Richard Mace. Richard Mace is an S tier character. I did mention how I wish he did a bit more, but I think I was just being a bit mean. He is such a cool character. He is so juicy. He is so... I don't know why I said juicy. He is just such a cool character. He is so fun, and he's like comedic, and he's also interesting. I can really respect. I can really respect Richard Mace. Then we have the pteroleptal leader. I'm giving an A tier. The pteroleptal leader being a very interesting character. His design is pretty cool. And he has just cool moments. He destroys the sonic screwdriver. Can't really hate him. Then we have the poacher, who encounters Richard Mace and the Doctor and I think Nyssa when they're outside of this crashed spaceship. He's cool, he has the bow, but he doesn't do much, so C. Same thing goes with the Miller. the one who delivers, like, he has a more plot purpose, like, he's more important for the plot, because he is the one who's moving all the parts to London. But the Miller does nothing. He's, like, an important character, but I'm also getting him C. Then we have the headman, or, like, the leader of the town, who is possessed by, he has the bracelet on, from the pterodactyls, but he saves the doctor's life, and then I think he dies. Honestly, D. Doesn't do much. The android is pretty cool. I'm giving A. I love the Grim Reaper costume, and then there's that sparkly look without the costume on. Gets killed by Nyssa in the TARDIS. Obviously takes out Adric. Just a memorable character. Then we have Black Orchid. Black Orchid has a bunch of cool, interesting characters. Beginning off with Tanner, the driver, personal driver, who mistakens Tegan for Anne. Can't go wrong with him. He's pretty harmless, C. Charles Cranley. Ooh, big Charles Cranley. I'm going to give him a B. I think Charles is he's just a pretty good character. Can't go wrong with him. Anne, same, B. I wish she did a bit more. I really like how she is played by Sarah Sutton, with Nyssa, and the dancing scene where they, like, swap places is pretty cool. And then, my enemy. I'll tell you the context behind this guy. Sir Robert Muir. So when I was recording my Visitation video, I could not say this man's name for the life of me. Sir Robert Muir. Just what a strange name. He is also pretty harmless, B. But someone who isn't harmless is George Cranley, who I think he's an A. If he did a lot more, I would put him in S, but he doesn't. He's a very good character, and I can appreciate this guy. He's the villain, but he's also a victim. I'm a George Cranley defender. He was not the bad guy, because the real bad guy is Lady Cranley. I'm not going to put her in D, because I hate her. I think she's a pretty interesting character. I'm putting her in A, for the sole reason that she's a character that you love to hate. Dittila Tony, hate to break it to you, mate. You're a useless guard. C tier. Speaking of useless characters, these two, being Sergeant Markham and Constable Cummings. The only important thing about these two is they went in the TARDIS once. Just getting D. Now, I don't know if you notice how big this Earthshock section is, but it's a pretty big section, so here we go. A lot of these characters I don't have much to say about. Beginning off with a character who I honestly am not a big fan of. Professor Kyle. What a useless character, especially in the end, where she gets demoted to the TARDIS and gets killed. C tier. Speaking of characters I'm not a big fan of, Lieutenant Scott. I don't think he's that interesting. Now, I really like the first part with the androids, and I was also thinking if I should include the androids on here. But I don't think it would be very fair to. Because these guys, after all, the androids are androids. They are not really characters. And, yeah. So I'm giving him a C. Actually, I'm not giving him a C. I'm going to give him a B. He is pretty cool. He does, actually, I'm not thinking A. No, I'm giving him a B. He does overthrow at the end, the ship. Other than that, he's sort of harmless. Then we have Sergeant Mitchell, who is a C. Loyal character. She eventually gets killed by the androids. Then we have Bane, who injures her shoulder. She has a very gruesome death with another character, giving her a C. Collins does nothing, goes with Bane. You can barely see his picture. I couldn't even find a good picture of him. Walters. This might sound mean. I don't know why I'm putting him this high, because I can respect this guy. He just stays on the nav control, and once everyone is killed, he gets left behind. Just, what a funny just thing that I know someone else must have noticed it, but I feel like I'm the only one who has. Snyder, I can respect what Snyder's trying to do, going back to save the others. But she doesn't do much. I'll put her B, because she does a bit more than the others. Other here. Now these two jumps. We have Bailey next. And I didn't even know she was a woman. I don't know if I called her a man, but she does nothing. Hard to find a picture of her. I think that's a woman. Looks like one. And then same goes with Carter. Such a hard thing to find his photo. Like, that photo is actual horrendous. But then we get the Cyber Leader. S tier, S tier, S tier. Easily the best Cybermen in the show's history. Perfect, 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 perfect. Greatest character on this tier list, 100%. Love the Earthshock Cyber Leader. David Banks. Best Cyberman ever. Now, the other Cyberman is the Cyber Lieutenant, or his, like, second in command. You know, the one that's, like, his henchman. The only reason I'm including him on here is, and the reason why I'm including this is, he is technically different from the others. He has a clear chin, he has a clear chin like the Cyber Leader. He's mostly like an exposition dump with a lot of dialogue just dumped onto him. He doesn't say much. He's basically like, Cyber Leader, I need to know who the Doctor is. Also, I'm not including archival footage of the Doctors. Forgot to mention that. That is not counting. Then we have some of the human characters with Big Ringway, the traitor. I'll give him a B. Yeah, Ringway is a bit alright. Berger, I'll give an A. I can respect Berger, but she's kind of overshadowed by Briggs. Briggs is such a funny character to me. She's got such a big actress to play such a lame character, and I can appreciate what she is. Just this evil, capitalistic, just not monster, but just selfish person who sort of deserves everything. Thank this woman for Adric's death. Then we have these two, who are going to a nice snuggly spot in D. This is Vance, this one out here, whose head's cropped off, is Vance, and this is Carson. Vance and Carson get killed by Cybermen in part 2. Vance is the one who's like speaking to Ringway. They're just nothing. Ending it off, the characters from everyone's favourite story, Time Flights. So, we got Horton. Horton, here's a who. He's just worst Walters. C tier. Captain, now, I'm going to probably butcher his name, Urquhart, I think that's how you say it. D. He says one line at the beginning, doesn't show up afterwards. He gets mentioned a lot. He is the pilot of Golf Victor Foxtrot. And Horton is the air traffic controller. Then we have Jim Andrews, the head of security, giving him a C. Putting him right next to the head of the airport, Douglas Sheard. Then we actually have 3 characters who are sort of interesting, beginning with Captain Stapley. I'm putting him an A. Probably the best character from Time Flight. Actually, definitely. Bilton is getting a B for Bilton. Andrew Bilton. And Scobie is getting a C. Scobie doesn't do much. Then we have this guy, Dave Culshaw, who I think only appears in one scene where they recognise him. I was going to include him in the script, but I'm going a D. Now, someone who I should have probably included is Angela Clifford, who is an air stewardess, I think, of Victor Foxtrot. She gets found early on, like she gets discovered with Dave, but the thing is I thought she would be more relevant, but she actually does quite a lot with Scobie. I didn't really show it in the video, but her and Scobie have quite a lot, like, they kind of hang out in episode 3. So I'll put her next to Scobie. Professor Hater. The Hater himself. Who actually really likes this guy. He's such a... I'm putting him B for his funny death. He has a funny death. But, like, he's just such a boring character. He's very rude and selfish. And he's very naive for a professor. And then we have these two guys. Anathon and Zarak. The two, Zarafins. Yeah. Anathon being the good one, Zarak the bad one. Just kind of hard to say. Again, I'm not going to include Khalid, because again, that's the master. But other than that, that is the tier list. Again, I'll put this one in the link in the description, because again, it was made by me. But that is it. So these are the 2 tier lists. Hope you enjoyed the tier lists. These actually took quite a while to make, and I've been recording for like an hour. I hope the video is not that long, but we'll see. Yeah, if there's any other characters who you think I should have included, chuck in the comments. If you want to make your own, or if you disagree with this tier list, chuck in the comments. Same with if you agree. I will say both of these seasons have some pretty good characters, and some pretty bad ones as well. But I can appreciate for what the season does in the end. But yeah, thanks for watching. Have a good one.